Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Word Balloon, the Comic Book Conversation Show. John Suntress here. We got a fast one for you today. Marvel had a telephone press conference all about the Clone Conspiracy, the new Spider-Man event that is going on. Dan Slott, the writer, Jimmy Chung, the artist. Nick Lowe is editing. There are tie-in books, but only a couple. And this is an opportunity to hear all about what was called Dead No More. They changed the name. Nick explains why they had to change the name in the press conference. It's a great conversation. The only thing, unfortunately, I think we got interference from another conference call because there was you could hear somebody in an office having a one-way conversation, laughing and just going on, and it got a little annoying. In fact, even Nick even makes mention of it. It happened while I was speaking as well. So I think it was innocent enough and literally just another conference call that unfortunately was bleeding over. So if you don't mind hearing it would be like being at a cocktail party and kind of hearing a little bit, not really understanding what was going on, but hearing another conversation while you were having an intense conversation. You can hear everything fine, and also it's really good information about the event and the excitement that Dan has over bringing some of these former Spider-Man universe characters back to life in a very different way. Of course, he couldn't go into detail because, he doesn't want to spoil the story. But sounds like it's going to be a great event. And also they stressed that if you want to follow the event and the what's going on, you really have to read the Clone Conspiracy. Amazing Spider-Man will be kind of supporting the Clone Conspiracy and is not the lead book as far as understanding what's going on. Take that for what you will, and that's fine or not fine, depending on the consumer. I got to buy another book to know what the hell's going on. What the hell? Let me save you the breath and just make that exclamation. But, I'm a big fan of Jim's. I'm a big fan of Dan's. I think he's one of the best Spider-Man writers ever. I think his tenure kind of shows that because he's writing great stories that we all love. If you're a fan of Superior Spider-Man, it sounds like Doc Ock is going to be part of this story as well. But really sounds interesting. The Clone Conspiracy, as told by Dan Slott and editor Nick Lowe. Let's turn things over to Marvel's PR director, Chris Delandro, to get this press conference started on Word.
We're going to talk to you guys a little bit about the Clone Conspiracy. Long teased, almost upon us. It's been in sort of the public eye for about 6 months now. We're talking about it around Free Comic Day. And I mean, as far as I understand, it's been in Dan Slott's brain for quite a bit longer. So as we
far too long,
as we approach final order cutoff, which is this Monday, we're going to be talking a little bit about it. And we sent you guys some really beautiful Jim Chung art to show. But yeah, like as I said, I have Dan and Nick with me today, and we're going to be talking a little bit about the first issue and what to expect. So Dan, why you got to make Peter Parker's life so hard?
You've changed my mind. You'll now get sandwiches. Every book will be about him having a sandwich. Tasty sandwich.
It's gonna be smooth sailing from here on out.
Oh, totally smooth sailing.
But I wanted to start with the elephant in the room, which is the word clone, which is a very, very loaded term for fans, especially fans of Spider-Man. Sometimes a dirty word, but one thing that I think stands out to fans of a certain age is some of those comics are sort of formative too. So it's certainly very divisive. People on both sides, and I know that we've talked a lot about this event. But has that sort of divisiveness sort of factored into your story at all? Has it affected you in the way you're writing it, or Nick, how it's being edited, things of that nature?
It is what's the rail you don't want to touch? Is it the third or the fourth?
Third rail.
Third?
Yep.
There you go. Clone is the third rail of Spider-Man. It's the, oh my God, what are you doing? Why? And that's always the most fun place to be, is dancing precariously towards the third rail. So yeah, absolutely. we know that the word clone makes some Spider-Man fans freak out immediately. Oh, Pavlovian-like. Clone, no.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're totally playing into that.
Yeah, and and we love that aspect of it, like Dan said. And I think the other thing is it's not just the word clone that dances on the third rail of this story. The whole story, there's so many parts of it that Dan had to convince me of over the last 2 years. About 2 years ago, so almost, I came into the Spider office, and Dan literally started prepping me for this story that long ago, which is pretty nuts to think about. But I know it's been living in his head even longer than that. But there's so many elements. I'm like, no, I don't think we can do this story, Dan. No, I don't think we can do this story. And he just kept at it. Dan is a persistent man, and he wore me down, and I gave in.
Yay! Yeah, the word you're persistent. The word you're looking for is evil. Evil. No,
you actually. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dan.
Oh no, go for it.
I was just going to say, Nick brought up something interesting that it's something that you guys have been working on for about 2 years. So I know that there's been a lot of sort of overt hints in this current volume of Amazing Spider-Man, but there have been some sort of ground laid for this throughout your entire run, as far as I understand, right?
Oh, absolutely. I grew up reading about the Jackal, and this guy should be a big deal. He should be such a major villain in Spider-Man's life. Are you guys hearing that?
Yeah, I can hear you. Someone on the line, if you wouldn't mind muting your phone for us. Go ahead, Dan.
Oh no. Yeah, no. We with the Jackal, this is like there's so many aspects about him that just make him the worst villain you could possibly have. And the first thing being, this is the guy who was your creepy teacher in college, and now he's your villain. That's just terrible. And then once you add in the fact that the first real time you met the Jackal, he was not just cloning you, he was cloning your dead girlfriend. That's super creepy. That's great.
Yeah.
That's a fun story.
Well, that provides me with a nice segue, actually, into the Gwen Stacy of it all. So we've sort of, he's kind of a classic Jackal plot, as you mentioned, to clone Gwen Stacy, but this one seems a little different that we've seen floating around. We saw her in Free Comic Book Day. We'll see her again in Clone Conspiracy, drawn wonderfully by Jim Chung. How can you guys talk a little bit about Gwen here and how Peter's going to react when he sees her?
Sure. First, one more time, I just want to say, I think someone on the line, there's a woman's voice that the rest of us are hearing. So if you could all just take a moment and look down at your phones and make sure you're muted, or what is it, star?
Yeah, star something.
Star 9, I think it is.
Or just mute on your phone would be great, because we're getting a lot of feedback on our end.
There's a woman's voice in the background talking about something. So if you could please hit that, and then we'll get back to Gwen Stacy. All right, I think that's it.
I think that's in the
Jackal's evil plan.
Yeah. Nope, still there. No, okay. Please, let's please do it. Well, one thing that if I may, I would love to. We have one thing to announce here that we haven't talked about really yet, which is in Clone Conspiracy #1. There's a special backup story. Dan, you want to talk about it?
Oh, this thing's one of my favorites. You are going to see a backup story drawn. Can we say who's drawing it?
Yep. Yeah, go for it.
Ah, fantastic. Drawn by legendary Spider-Man artist Ron Frenz. That is going to reopen a big part of Spider-Man's history. It's going to show you something that has been hinted at but never seen before. And it's a lot about Gwen.
Mm-hmm.
So just seeing Ron draw classic era Gwen in this backup it's been a treat. And what's going on in the story it's going to be a hard hit.
So, Dan, you mentioned Ron Frenz, and I mentioned Jim Chung before. I want to talk about Jim a little bit because we're just showing some of his finished color pages today for the first time, and even a really great spread from issue 2 that's in black and white. You've worked with him before. I know you did covers for Avengers Initiative, but this is the first time I believe you've worked with him interior-wise, correct?
This is the first time I've written a story where Jim's drawn interiors, and with Jim and John Dell and Justin Ponzer, this is some of the finest art in any story I've ever worked on in my entire career. This is a gorgeous book. Marvel has pulled out all the stops for Dead No More Clone Conspiracy. While this is going on, this is the core Spider-Man title. This is the book you have to read. There are other books that are going to tie into this, Prowler, Silk, Amazing Spider-Man, but this is the one that you need to have. This is where all the biggest shocks and thrills and the whole guts of the story, you want to be reading this book. And when you see this Jim Chung artwork, it's not even going to be like that hard of a arm twist to get you to go, maybe you should read this. Look at this. This is gorgeous.
Nick, I know that we talked a little bit about the decision to break this out into its own event, and I know that Jim Chung was sort of a big factor in that. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I mean, the biggest factor in splitting it out was just because the story got really big, and there were so many great ideas that Dan had of story ideas that just couldn't fit in the main story. Like Dan had so many cool ideas about supporting characters and creepy stuff that that just didn't have room in the Peter Parker Spider-Man, Miles Warren Jackal story that Dan was telling. It just grew out of there, and that's why we made it its own series. We made the Amazing Spider-Man issues tie-ins to that main series. But it just got too big. It just got too big for the kind of container we were building it towards. And so we blew up that container. We got a bigger, shinier container, and we put it in. But I mean, it's funny. You can actually see it in Jim's art, like that the change in plans in this, because like the first couple issues, it's like Amazing Spider-Man 19 and blah blah blah. It's before we
on the tops of the pages,
yeah. Before Dan really we figured out exactly how much story we had. So
What's going to be fun is in Amazing Spider-Man, working with Chris Gage, we have these whole done-in-one stories that every issue you read of Dead No More, there's going to be some major revelation, some major surprise. And you're immediately going to go, I want to know more about that. And then over in Amazing Spider-Man, we have these done-in-one stories that answer your questions, tease you more about what's going on, and tell you a really nasty story. Where when you get to like Amazing 22, I think that's going to be one of the biggest gut punch stories in Spider-Man that we've told in years. I can't wait for you guys to see what we're doing.
And looking at advanced covers, you're bringing back one of my favorite 90s Spider-Man villains, which is Carrion, which I think I'm very excited about. I might be the only one.
No, Carrion has a big role. And one of the other things that I also want to stress is, a lot of people have given some grief about the amount of story elements that we have already released. Gwen Stacy, Dr. Octopus, things like that. But I promise you, we have so many surprises up our sleeves as this story goes along that that is only the tip of the iceberg.
Dan, you do have a history of cracking the internet in half, so I think they'll probably be ready, be out with their pitchforks by the end of this.
Absolutely, sharpening them very hard. But like we just mentioned, Doc Ock, and if one of your favorite runs of Spider-Man was Superior Spider-Man, you are not going to want to miss a single issue of this. There are some very big Doc Ocky things that happen.
We talked a little bit about the Amazing Spider-Man tie-ins, but I want to jump ahead a little bit. Nick, can you talk a little bit about what's going to be going on in other tie-ins? We released a checklist today, so you can see that the newly launched Prowler book's going to tie in, as well as Silk and Amazing Spider-Man. So we covered Amazing Spider-Man a little bit, but I'd like to hear from you about what's going on in Silk and Prowler.
Sure. Well, if you've been reading Amazing Spider-Man since our most recent number 1, Prowler has been a key part of Peter Parker's plan and of kind of a global Spider-Man initiative. Prowler is kind of the Spider-Man that is there when Spider-Man can't be. He puts on the suit, he swings around, all that kind of stuff. Well, if you've read Amazing Spider-Man 17, you know that it has not been going all that well for our good friend Hobie Brown. Really devastating thing happens in Amazing Spider-Man 17 that sets up the whole series of the Prowler and what he's doing during the clone conspiracy. Spoiler alert here, Hobie died in Amazing Spider-Man 17. Only to be part of the Jackal's, kind of plan as has been going around.
But he's dead.
It's true. But Jackal, with some science and a pill taken daily, Prowler is back up and moving around.
Yay!
So with Sean Ryan at the writing it, and then with Jamal Campbell doing the art with great Javier Salter's layouts. If you don't know Jamal Campbell, he's been doing a ton of covers for us in the last couple of years. His art is incredible. This will be the first Marvel interior work that he's done, and woo, boy, is it good. But they've got a really kick-ass story there that also picks up on some threads both from Amazing Spider-Man Past, but from the Mark Waid, Chris Samnee era of their Daredevil run together as well. I'll leave that kind of hint out there. But
I know what you're talking about.
I can't talk. I don't want to talk too much about it, but it picks up from both those places. So super excited about Prowler and Hobie. And when you see where this story takes him and where we go after it, Dan had a lot to do with that as well. Some early ideas of what he was going to do with Prowler that people aren't going to believe what's going on. As for Silk is one of my favorite books that we publish. Robbie Thompson, along with artists Stacey Lee, Tana Ford, especially the two of them have done such incredible work. Veronica Fish did some work on it as well. But here we've got an arc. We're bringing in artist Irene Strachowski. And the cool thing about this story is, as you know, J. Jonah Jameson has been a huge part of Silk from the get-go. And J. Jonah Jameson is a very, very big part of the clone conspiracy. No more, as you'll see from the Before Dead No More issues of Amazing Spider-Man. But he is a core part. If you've been reading, you know, and this happened back in Amazing Spider-Man 16, so this is a spoiler that's at least a month old at this point. But the Jackal, Miles Warren, brought back JJJ's wife, Marla, who died in one of Dan and artist Marcos Martin's best work together.
We brought back Marla. No.
Yep, we did. But she is not the only part of Jonah's family that gets brought back. As you'll see, their deceased adopted daughter, Maddie Franklin, a.k.a. one of the more recent Spider-Women, is back from the dead as well. And that is going to throw Jonah throw Cindy Moon, a.k.a. Silk, and Jonah and this whole story into a totally new gear as Silk gets in on the clone conspiracy fun.
You touched on something when you were talking about Prowler. Just want to circle back about bringing Hobie back and taking a pill every single day to sort of maintain his status as living. I wanted to talk a little about Miles Warren and his plan. We touched on it a little bit. Jackal plans tend to be a little bit more one note throughout the years. He's kind of really stepped his game up a little bit, and it's very creepy and it's very sinister and it's very different, especially in terms of New You and all the cloning procedures. Can you guys talk a little bit about what he's sort of up to and what his end game is here and how?
Oh, absolutely not.
Absolutely.
This isn't the clone obviousness. It's the clone conspiracy. There's a conspiracy. Things are happening. Evil things. This is all about, in the past, Miles Warren has worn a green fluffy suit, and he's cloned many Spider-Men and many Gwen Stacys, and that's kind of been it.
Yeah.
Now he's kind of elevated himself. He's not really thinking it more of cloning, but really bringing people back from the dead. And we see him wearing the Anubis helmet, the jackal, god of ancient Egypt of life and death. So he's on a bit of a power trip.
He's diversifying his portfolio.
Yeah. Well, and wouldn't you be if you could bring people back from the dead?
I sure would, Dan. I sure would.
Fair enough. So I'll ask one sort of question which we touched on very briefly before we open it up to press. But simmering throughout your run, following Spider-Verse and Superior Spider-Man has been this sort of looming threat of Dr. Octopus, and I think we can say that next week's Amazing Spider-Man 18 is a big living brain issue. Correct?
I cannot wait for everyone. As you see on the cover, it's got Spider-Man and Anna Maria on the run from the living brain with a big kind of ghosted figure of Otto Octavius and octopus arms in the background. I cannot wait for people to read this issue. I'm so scared of talking about anything, of spoiling any of the incredible bits of it.
People who've been reading Amazing since the relaunch know that Otto Octavius's brain has been living in the living brain. He's been there since issue 1 of the relaunch, waiting, planning, scheming. This is the result of that. It's long simmering, long brewing, very much a long game. And if you're a fan of Superior Spider-Man, you cannot miss Amazing 18.
Well, that's perfect. I think I'll leave it at that and not press you for any more juicy details. But I'm going to open it up now to some press questions. So we've got some time, so we'll probably go around at least twice. But we'll start with Marvel.com.
Hello, gentlemen. Can you hear me? Is this working?
Yep. Yeah. You're good.
All right. Great. We have a question from a fan about just how big the cast for this will be, and he's wondering how new reader-friendly it will be since he hasn't read the totality of the epic, some would say hot mess, that was the Clone Saga.
Well, let me jump in first, Dan, before you do. So we're sending Clone Conspiracy 1 off to the printer this week. And we were just going over the details, like the recap page and things like that. And after reading another time through the issue, we spend very little time on the recap page recapping much because Dan made it so reader friendly as you jump into this issue. We give a little bit of review of what this volume has been, but for the most part, Dan covers it really, really well in this first issue.
Yeah, we even go old school with some of the little tiny yellow boxes. We are going to hold your hand and walk you through this. Everything will be fine. You can jump in, bam, with Clone Conspiracy 1.
Perfect.
And just jump right in, and then we'll hurt you. We're not going to hurt you with continuity. We're going to hurt you with feels.
It's like a pool where the sharks aren't quite visible just from a glance.
Guys are really
they're not continuity sharks. They're actual sharks. They will hurt you.
Sorry, just the first part of the question also, which was just how large the cast will be.
Oh, yeah. It's quite large. I mean, it's Peter Parker's story, but a lot of your favorite supporting cast from Dan and his awesome artists like Humberto Ramos and Giuseppe Camicoli and Ryan Stegman, from all that run, a lot of this takes place in San Francisco, I think I can safely say, and that's where Horizon University is. You get some good Max Modell, Arabella Fish, so on and so forth.
Okay. But you're also, if you're a Spider-Man fan from way back, no matter when you started Spider-Man in the 50 years, one of the things about Spider-Man, sadly, is that so many people die. So many people die in this book, and we're bringing people back. So if you're someone who died in the pages of Amazing Spider-Man, you might be coming back.
Good answer. John, word balloon.
Hey, guys. Dan, I always appreciate when you are in charge of an event, and I think you find a lot of new things to say about these characters, whether it's been Spider-Verse or Spider Island. But, and by the way, I just want to point out, because I can hear the woman right now, that is not on my end, so I don't know what the hell's going on. Maybe it's another conference that's bleeding over or something. But anyway, no, my question is, coming back to these characters that are coming back from the dead, I imagine, do you find, is it easy for you to kind of find new things to say with these characters? And I mean, I'll, say, I mean, obviously we know Gwen is in there, but like Uncle Ben or some of these others that have, been represented in, say, a Spider-Verse, but now coming back from the dead instead.
Well,
Nick, you got this one?
Yeah, I can take it. Dan is really good at that, and I think one of the things that you'll see is, especially, we already mentioned this backup story that we just announced in this call that deals with Gwen. I mean, Gwen spent a lot of time, she didn't come in for, what is it, issue 31 or something like that, Dan, that she first showed up in?
Not till the college years.
Yep, not till Peter went to college. And then she's there and bopping around till 121 when she passed away. But she was written in a very different time, and so one of the cool things is getting a little bit more through a little bit more modern lens of Gwen Stacy and who she is, and it's been really, really great to read that and get to dive in her not just as Peter Parker's number one gal, Gwen Stacy. This is a Gwen Stacy. A very fascinating character in her own right, aside from Spider-Man. And like just like that, you'll see other characters that have been brought back as well through a similar.
I just want to take a second to point out that we can, if anyone is out there, could you guys please mute your lines? We're still getting a lot of feedback on our end, so getting louder actually. George, Newsarama.
So, Dan, you touched on this earlier, talking about the Clone Saga as kind of the third rail of Spider-Man comics. Is there kind of a drive in the clone conspiracy to sort of redeem the idea of Spider-Man and clones, to show that this is a story you can tell and this is an area of his history that you can touch on without shocking yourself to death?
This is a really good question when on the other side. He'll have to tell us how he did. I think, one of the fun times I've had working on this book is picking up characters that people haven't considered to be a big threat, or characters that might have only appeared a few times that people go, oh, it's so good to see them again, whether it's Cardiac or Stunner or Phil Urich, that just taking these characters and going, what new spins can we do with them? How can we bring them back? And if you're a character in Spider-Man and you've had a good run, you've had some of the best writers and artists working on you. So, of course, you're somebody's favorite. Everybody is somebody's favorite out there. And we've had so much fun with the Jackal, especially during Spider Island, that it's fun to look at what he's doing now and to take that stepping stone of cloning, mad scientist, and just running with it in a completely new direction. That everything is open. Anything could happen.
CBR.
Okay, that's not what we're talking.
Hey guys, excited for the story, and we kind of keep hearing about how long this has been in your mind, Dan. And I'm kind of curious, how long has it been going? Because you look back at stuff, even thematically with some of the issues that really dealt with death, and when Spider-Man wanted no one to die around him, and then stuff like Rhino and his apparent death, and it seems like this really has been years. Is it a matter where something kind of story threads kind of help fit this, or is it really like a clear plan that you've had for all this time?
It is very much a crazy threaded conspiracy theory wall in my house going. And then, it's not as bad as Jonathan Hickman. Like when he came in and walked everybody through the entirety of his Fantastic Four run on his first day at his first retreat. And everyone looked at him like, "You're going to hit all of that. you're going to do that." I've kind of been in the same boat where my first day having a meeting back then with Steve Wacker when I was going to take over the book solo. I brought this yellow legal pad, and I started walking him through the first 6 months of Big Time, and then the next 6 months, and then the next 6 months. And he grabbed the yellow legal pad grabbed it away from me at one point, and he just kept flipping through it. And he's like, "Oh my God, we're not going to get through all this in one lunch." And so there's been stuff that's been long brewing and stuff that I've always wanted to get to, and it's fun to hit that.
Jesse, IGN.
So a big part of your run from the beginning has been this idea that Peter's obsessed with saving everyone, regardless of how unrealistic that goal is. Is that something that's going to be a big focus in this story?
Absolutely. It's kind of weird because we live in a world where if you live in the Marvel Universe and you're a superhero, where you can make these broad, impossible proclamations, and they can be your whole reason for being. You can live by the mantra of "with great power must also come great responsibility." And for 50-plus years of Spider-Man, that has led this character on paths of tremendous guilt over everything. And by the time I got to come onto the book as the writer, there were graveyards filled with Spider-Man supporting cast. And to have one more key member, and at that point it was Jonah's wife, Marla, pass away, the very next one, he just goes, "No more. I'm Spider-Man. I can do anything. I have these amazing powers. I can fix this." And we've watched over the years of this run how that "no one dies" kept changing because he had to become more realistic. Then it kind of became "no one dies when I'm around. No one dies on my watch." And at the beginning of this run of Spider-Man, when he's talking to Mockingbird in Shanghai, he's even kind of grown up a bit, and he's dialed it back, and he's made it kind of like a very realistic goal, and how he's going to approach this and stay true to his mantra. And an adventure like this, it blows that all out of the water. If suddenly you can literally snap your fingers and bring someone back, what does that do to someone like Peter Parker?
Marvel.com.
Oops, sorry guys, I'm here. So it's Strami here, and I'm going to ask a question purely for me.
I can feel where this one.
Where is the Shocker in all this, and when will he take his place as Spider-Man's ultimate big bad?
The Shocker will take his place as the ultimate big bad, probably around the time of Spider-Man Homecoming, because we're whores.
Now, Dan.
I don't know. No, come on, it's the Shocker. I've been very guilty of using him as a, someone to job when Spider needs to be. And Herman's been very fun that way. But you look at all the amazing work that they did over Superior Foes. Next time we see him, we better do something really awesome with Herman.
That's exactly what I want to hear, Dan.
John, word balloon.
Talk about working with Jim Chung, both of you, because I'm a longtime fan, and I'm glad that he's as involved as he is in this event.
Yeah. Every time you get a page in from Jim, you lose a good hour of your day because you just stare at the page. You just stare at it and go. He just turned in some stuff from issue 3 today, and it's so hard not to just go, be a moth heading towards the light, because everything Jim draws is so gorgeous.
I mean, he is one of the perfect Marvel artists. I think I've talked about this before in an interview or something like that. But to me, like in my book, there are people whose work just exemplifies Marvel, whose characters have this gravitas and this aspirational quality to them. And it's people like of course you've got Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko, big time. But for me, John Romita Sr. for so long was like the Marvel artist, and then like Mike Zeck with Secret Wars and these times that we go through. I think Jim is very much a modern version of that for us, and so to get him to draw this, it feels historic, it feels timeless, it feels classic, and it pairs so well with like this very hardcore but strange story that Dan is telling along with him. But Jim, his art is just incredible, and he puts so much of his heart and his soul into it, and you can see it on the characters' faces and their eyes and their expressions. His Gwen Stacy is fantastic, and his Dr. Octopus. Yeah,
that's one of the great joys of this is if you're a Jim Chung fan, you've seen him draw the Avengers, you've seen him draw Adventures in Space like in Infinity, you've seen him draw all these different corners of the Marvel universe, and this is Jim in the Spider-Man section. This is Jim. Every time you see a new character that hasn't appeared in the book yet, and it's a classic Spidey character or a classic Spidey villain or modern day, it's just, now I get to see Jim Chung draw them. So if you're a Spider-Man fan and a Jim Chung fan, you have just hit the Venn diagram of awesome.
Mm-hmm. It's just so cool. And his I gotta say, his Dr. Octopus in all his chubby glory, and by chubby I don't mean Jim. He's a very trim, fit man. But his Dr. Octopus is he looks so right. He just looks right.
George, Newsarama.
So far, we've seen a lot of people come back from the dead as clones. We've seen a lot of people waiting to be cloned. We know some people will be cloned. But as you said, this is the clone conspiracy, not the clone obviousness. I know how you're going to answer this, but I have to ask anyway. Is there anyone in Spider-Man's life and Peter Parker's life that he may not realize is already a clone, that we don't even realize is already a clone? Is that coming down the pike?
Maybe.
I think we could probably leave it at that. That's a good question.
Make sure when you transcribe that, it's a very small maybe, very small font.
Draw that A out a lot.
High pitched maybe.
Albert,
I'll
CVR.
take it.
Yeah, for both Dan and Nick, just kind of more of a thematic thing. I mean, you start to think about, the themes Dan's been playing with and have been prevalent in Spider-Man, since the beginning. And, a lot of it is about death. And then you think about, well, a lot of superhero characters have, death related to their origins and their motivations. But is there something about Spider-Man that, death is more of a part of him than other superheroes? There's something kind of intrinsically kind of morbid about his adventures that maybe isn't obvious from the exterior?
From the moment he was created, the thing about Spider-Man was, and it really encapsulates the Marvel ethos of Marvel is the world outside your window. Spider-Man stories, they're not set in Gotham or Metropolis. They're in New York. They're in Queens. They're in Brooklyn. They're in places that you can go and touch. And Spider-Man as a character, he's not some modern-day god. He's the person the person down the street. And we can do crazy things to Peter. We can make him a fish out of water and have him run his own corporation. We can make him a movie star tomorrow. We can do the craziest things to him, and he's always going to react the way people react. There's something so human about Spider-Man. And one of the things we all go through is we all lose people. It's the most human thing of all, is that, you there's a loved one that you have that isn't here anymore. And no one can feel that the way Spider-Man feels it, because Spider-Man, on some level, Spider-Man is you. So, yeah, everyone who gets aboard writing the book, they're going to channel that part of their life in it, too. And with it comes so much tragedy for Peter Parker. And we're going to delve into that.
Jesse, IGN.
So this story is coming on the heels of another big Marvel event, and I'm curious whether anything that happens to Peter in Civil War II kind of feeds into here and his experiences and how he reacts to this new conflict.
Well, it's all part of the grander story, and part of it is we're starting this before Civil War II ends, so this will be another case where you have to wait until both are done to see exactly how they fit into each other. I'd have to say there, but yeah, so that's it.
Marvel.com.
Hey guys, every time where obviously Peter has, feelings about clones given all his past experience with them, but will you sort of be playing out with the range of people's reactions in terms of maybe some people are huge fans of this, maybe some people aren't? Sort of where is everyone who isn't Peter standing with the idea of like, hey, my loved one could come back magically?
That is something you're going to have to read the book to find out. But I think the way to look at it is, how would you feel? And is this something that you would like to take advantage of? And then ask that of any Spider-Man character.
John, we're balloon.
I think more questions for me are going to come as I read it, so I'll pass. But thank you.
George, Newsarama?
Kind of playing off the last question that was asked, really what's stopping Peter from simply embracing this idea?
Great question.
That's a really good question. It's
answer for himself too.
This is this is what the book's about. So you're gonna have to wait.
Nailed it. Yep.
That was a great question. Albert, CBR.
Are there any other classic Spidey artists other than Ron Friends as a part of this?
Only, we have a current classic who's drawing the Amazing Spider-Man issues, who's Giuseppe Camuncoli, who, has been off and on with Dan for the last, 4 years, 5 years, something like that?
Yeah.
And he's been our anchor on this entire volume and much of the last one, a big part of Superior. He's one of our, core Spider-Man artists. And
he is my rock.
Yep. He's doing fantastic work on the.
Wait do you guys see 18? Oh, wait, no, not 19. When 19 is one of our biggest gut punch issues of Amazing that we've told in some time, and the storytelling that Giuseppe puts in there. It's going to hurt you.
And one of the craziest things about him, he is. I don't know why he's not more people's favorite artist. Maybe he is, they just don't really think about it. Because, he, not only is his work so incredibly detailed, so powerful, and so cool, but he's also, he has been your core Spider-Man artist for, we ship this book a lot. And he has drawn, it'll be 15 of the first 19 issues of this volume, something like that.
That's insane.
Unheard of. And the quality of work to go with that is just unbelievable.
He kills himself to get this book out. And it shows on every page. He's so good. With other classic Spidey artists, you are going to see some. I just saw a variant cover today, which had a Spidey legend drawing
Yep,
it. So.
Art Bagley's doing a bunch of variant covers for us that are incredible. That's the one that Dan's talking about that I just spoiled for you. We got a bunch of great variant cover artists and stuff like that. But on the interiors, it's mainly like, this is a tight story. So you got Jim Chung on your main event book, the book that you cannot miss, the book that you need to make sure you call your local retailer and put that on your pull list. We got Giuseppe Camuncoli on the Amazing Spider-Man tie-in issues. We've got Jamal Campbell and Javier Salterez on Prowler. We've got Irene Strakowski on the Silk issues. And if she just did some amazing Gwenpool issues as well. But it's a really fantastic tight event that we cannot wait till you can see.
All right, I think we got time for maybe one more. Jesse, IGN, you have a question? Take us home.
Yeah, so when the series was first revealed earlier in the year with that teaser campaign, it was referred to as Dead No More, and at some point it became the Clone Conspiracy instead. And is there a significance to that title change? Did Clone Conspiracy just have a better ring to it, or does that kind of reflect your changing ideas for the story?
Well, I'll jump on this, Dan, if you don't mind.
I'll go for it.
It mainly, in this day and age, it is so hard to keep stories secret. It is so hard to keep story elements as surprises. Not only does the internet make discussing it with your friends really, really easy and make the dissemination of ideas really, really easy and fast, almost too easy. So we wanted to make sure, because when we started talking about this, it was before we revealed that the man in red that Dan's been planting since the beginning of Amazing Spider-Man #1 of the most recent volume, that he's the Jackal, that it's Miles Warren, the Jackal, and so that's why we started with calling it Dead No More. That was our kind of teaser. That was our kind of priming the pump before we revealed it was the Jackal, and that's when at that point, once you know it's the Jackal, there are clones involved, and so that was the point that we were ready to, unveil the full title.
Yeah, if you can think about the timeline of when we told people about Dead No More, if we had said Jackal then, it would have tipped our hand.
Yeah, and just to jump in from a sales perspective, Dan's been teasing the story out, more regularly in his current volume of Amazing Spider-Man. But then there was also the free comic book day story, and then a number of other things. So we didn't want to tip our hand too early, basically. But yeah, go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
Yeah, before we wrap, one of the biggest points, and we just got to put it in neon lights, is if you're a Spider-Man fan, you really need to. It's not something. If you want to make sure you're reading this story, please put it on your pull list. Don't want to get to a point where you get to the store and it's not enough Dead No More. I'll shut up.
Yeah, because reading Amazing Spider-Man isn't enough. You will not get the story in Amazing Spider-Man.
The core story isn't Dead No More.
Dead No More, the Clone Conspiracy. So, yeah.
All right, awesome. That is all the time we have for today. But, Dan, thank you for taking an hour out of your day to chat with us, and Nick, you as well. I know you guys are both very busy. But, yeah, so that's it. Clone Conspiracy #1 is going to be on sale October the 12th. But, if fans out there are anxious about it, I would definitely encourage them to check with their retailers before Monday and pre-order the first issue. Jim Chung and then Ron Friends has also got a Gwen Stacy backup in the first issue. And it looks really, really gorgeous. So I hope you guys all check it out when it comes out on the 12th. And I think we're sharing with all you wonderful press people some images, some color images from #1, some inked images from #2, and a pencil page from #3. No, we're not. Well, we would like to. I wanted to, but I think someone said no. They said, "Wait, Nick, wait." But we did share the cover to #3, though. First look at Gabrielle Delotto's amazing cover for #3. I thought I found one page. I thought I found one page from #3 that didn't spoil something, but I must have missed something.
All the blood just left my body when you said that. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chris, for stopping that.
But yeah, so issue 1 is out October 12th. I hope you guys all check it out, and thank you guys all very much for taking the time to chat with us today. And thank you, Dan.
Thanks, guys.
We'll talk to you guys all very soon.
Dan Slott, Nick Lowe talking about the Clone Conspiracy, new from Marvel, that is starting next month. And hope you enjoyed today's press conference. Hope you enjoyed today's word balloon. More coming in the days ahead. I've got more than a dozen podcasts and panels from Cincy Comic-Con to bring you in the next few days, and I want to get them out to you, in a timely manner because some of them are time sensitive. But I thought this one will get this press conference out there and give you a chance to listen to it straight from the horse's mouth. Both horses, Dan and Nick. So I hope you enjoyed it, and more coming. Keep listening. Any questions or comments about Word Balloon, reach me via email, john@wordballoon.com. You can follow me on Facebook under my name, John Suntress, under the Word Balloon Network, and on Twitter @John Word Balloon. And I'm on Instagram. Word Balloon is on SoundCloud now, all the fresh episodes, and also YouTube. It's just the audio and the Word Balloon logo, but there I am for everyone to listen to. So, and people are doing it, so that's lovely. And this show will be another example of that. But so come to wordballoon.com, though, to make sure that you hear every episode. In the meantime, thanks for listening. Word Balloon is a copyright feature of Shaky Productions, copyright 2016.